Hello. Welcome to today's stream. I'm super excited by it. As you can see today, actually, we don't have our face cam on because unfortunately, I came down with an infection in my eye. So that's super unfortunate. But I'm super excited to have you guys here today because today we're talking about how we can build a kick-ass workflow to get things done in Notion. And I think this is a very important topic to discuss because, you know, when we go through life, we have so many things that end up cluttering our inbox. And inbox, I don't just mean your emails. I don't just mean your the connotation of inbox as in like everything that's incoming just in terms of communication, but also incoming in terms of thoughts, in terms of what needs to be done, right? So I'm sure all of you will have some sort of, task manager, some sort of to-do list, right? And for us, we have a to-do list inside our Keep It Simple dashboards in the community, right? We have a place where we store all the different things that we need to do per day. And we already try to simplify that a lot because, for example, here we're already showing like, hey, what do we have to do today? What do we have to do tomorrow, this week, a calendar's bird eye view. But it really just doesn't, we still have so many things that come into our minds on a day-by-day basis that we need to figure out like, hey, before we know where to sort it, where should we put everything, right? Where should we put all the different things that we're working on and store it into the proper place at the proper time? And most importantly, make the decisions to do, delegate, or defer. So if you ask me, whenever I build a system, I try to go through a 3-stage process. I try to answer the why, what, and how. And this is very important, especially in systems thinking, because you don't actually know what the right solution is. And maybe the right solution that you're trying to build may be completely different from what you imagined in the first place. So it's very important to define why. What is the goal we want? Well, the goal we want is whenever we have a thought cross our head, whether it be an article to write, tasks to do, or perhaps even emails to send, just anything that will take up time in our day, we want to easily store it so we don't forget it. And this is really important. And actually, before we get too deep into it, I'd love for you all to let me know in the chat if you guys are familiar with the concepts of GTD, getting things done. This is a very fascinating concept that I think everybody should be at least somewhat familiar with. So if you don't know what it's about, let me know so I can explain it to you. Because GTD is a very, very, very powerful concept. Getting to inbox zero is so important. And I think, David Allen explains it so well in his book. It's his concept, but I would love to explain it to you guys too if you guys need that background. So that's the first thing that we want to accomplish, the why, right? We want to be able to easily store items. And we also want to be saying that whenever we do store an idea, we want to easily process it and make quick decisions on how we should categorize. Most importantly, number one is categorize this new task, this new item in our lives, or if we should be doing it now, delegating it to someone else, or deferring the task to another time. And it's actually super fascinating because we definitely have a lot of scenarios where we know that we shouldn't be doing this right now, but because we feel so compelled to do it, it's already in our mind, we don't want to forget, we end up wasting a lot of time on tasks that could potentially be done later. It's not important, it's not urgent right now, right? So there's a lot of ideas here, like the Eisenhower method, right? If it's not urgent, if it's not important, do it later. So there's a lot of mindsets that we can integrate for this. So we also want to say another why is we could possibly integrate the principles of GTD and the Eisenhower method. And I'm seeing that Alyssa's already asking questions about, what is GTD? How can we use it? I think that's a really good start. Let's start there and let's start discussing exactly what GTD is so people can know, at least coming in, where they can find more resources to read about this. There's a wonderful book written by David Allen already, and also what we can do with it. So GTD, what does it stand for? It stands for getting things done. It's a work-life management system that is alleviating overwhelm and instills focus, clarity, and confidence. So only one part is about the do, delegate, and defer, right? In general, GTD is just how do you manage tasks in a way that gives you clarity in your life, that helps you, from the moment that you have the idea, be able to instantly process it, categorize it, know exactly what part of your life it's trying to fix, right? It's trying to improve. And then in the actionable part of it is how can you take action, or when should you take action, or who should even take action, right? Those are the questions that it's asking. Who should take action? When should they take action, right? And even if it's yourself. So there's a lot of principles that you can use to help you make these strong decisions on like when and who, and this gives you a lot of intense clarity in your lives. Now, the Eisenhower method is also very interesting, and this is something I think I talked about a lot more, at least when I initially started, the whole gamification projects, where if I had to explain it like, it's almost like, let me put a picture in here. A picture in here would be easier to understand. So the Eisenhower method, I'll use this picture right here. Let's copy this image. The Eisenhower method looks kind of like this. So if it's urgent and important, you do it now. If it's important but not urgent, you decide, you defer, you schedule a time to do it. And if it's not important yet urgent, then you want to delegate it. And if it's not important, not urgent, then delete it. So the Eisenhower method and the getting things done method are both very similar in the mindset that, hey, you only really have 4 major decisions. You do it, you defer it, you delegate, or you delete it. And the whole idea of these frameworks is helping you get to the points of decision. So I've made a little flow chart to help us with this decision, and let's switch over to that now. Let's discuss it. So, and by the way, guys, if you still have more questions, feel free to ask, right? I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to help educate, different ways of how to get things done in a meaningful way, in a way that gives you less stress, in a way that prioritizes what's important in your life, and most importantly, in a way that saves you time. So, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask about the theory. But let's zoom in a bit, all right? Let's zoom into this flowchart and explain what this is all about. So we have a concept called the GTD inbox. And generally what this is it's the idea that you want to throw in everything that's ever comes up in your life. And as I mentioned before, inbox does not refer only to your email inbox. It's a broader concept that includes all the things you have collected in different ways, tasks you have to do, ideas you have thought of, notes, bills, business cards, etc. So it's basically anything in your life that comes through you, and we're setting up a filter, almost like a strainer, right? To start straining away the complexities of what this is, so you can offload it from your memory and instantly categorize it to where it should be. So I want to show you something. Actually, we built something called the convenience store, and I built this off stream. I built this, I think, just around 2 weeks ago. But the whole idea was that this convenience store helps you easily make quick additions to your Notion system. It takes advantage of views, so it's especially useful for mobile accessibility as well. I can definitely show you guys how it looks on mobile in a little bit after we're done putting everything together. But we notice that we have something called a simple GTD inbox in here, where it's already helping us put in tasks that we don't know where it kind of fits in our life yet, things that we're just thinking about but not necessarily going to execute on, just shower thoughts, right? Mostly is a good explanation for this. And how we use this was that this is the master database, but we have a bunch of linked views. And again, Notion is really good for having linked views, in the sense that we can put the linked views everywhere. We can populate them in different places. For example, if we put them inside Mission Board, we can see all the shower thoughts that are coming up, and then we can drag and drop them already into different parts of our system when we're ready to take that onward, to make that decision and put it forward. Now, What's missing here though? Why am I calling it a simple GTD inbox? Well, the reason is because we haven't made, that hasn't automated a lot of the decisions that need to be automated when we are trying to come up with a actionable plan on what we should do with these new items. Let's talk about this plan, right? Let's explain what this plan is all about. And I love that, you know, Alyssa, you've talked about, you know, using the Eisenhower before. I think it really is taught in colleges now. So I love that, especially with all the time management techniques that we need to use nowadays. Thank you, Sahil. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining our stream, and hopefully you learned something new today as well. So if we go through this, and the way you usually read flowcharts is anything with a diamond is a decision point, right? So what is it? Is it actionable, right? So we have an item in here. And if it's not an actionable item, then we should trash it. Or we should put it maybe someday, right? Maybe it's our idea storage place. We're gonna just keep storing everything in there, and this is where it all sits. But most of the time, we might want to trash it so that it stays out of our consciousness if it's just something that's a passing thought or something that is just really not usable right now in terms of in our grander scheme of our lives. So let's keep on going. What we're going to talk about then is what if it is actionable. Is it a complex task or is it a simple task? If it's a complex task, then it should probably be a project. And actually, sometimes it might even be higher level than that. It might be a key results. It might be a goal. You actually can decide easily. It says, hey, you know, is this going to be a higher order item in my life? And actually, what we might want to do here is, you know, when I'm thinking about the system, right, we might probably want to build additional decision points here where we're saying, hey, you know, is this answering a why in my life? Is this answering a what in my life? Like, is this something actionable, achievable? You know, is it a smart, specific, measurable, attainable? You know, all those different things that are able to help us differentiate if it's going, what kind of item it's going to be inside our lives. We'll talk about that in a sec. But if it's a simple task, right? If it's just, you know, a task, then what's the next step, right? Can it be done under 2 minutes? Yes or no, right? If it's yes, if it can be done under 2 minutes, then do it, right? If it can't be done under 2 minutes, then delegate it or defer it. And this is very, very interesting in the sense that it helps us kind of clear our minds about what we should be doing with these tasks, but more importantly, this is where we can start adding in even additional layers between these, right? If no, then who do we delegate it to? Who has the skill set to help us with this task, right? How can we make a quick decision on that as well? All right, so knowing that now we have all these things in place, now let's discuss and debate how things should work. And my idea is to make a brand new page that is going to house everything that we're going to do in GTD, or at least in terms of, you know, clearing the inbox, right? So let's make a dashboard for that for now, and then we can discuss about integrating it into one of our already existing dashboards if we so need to. But let's talk about that in a sec. So going back to our super package, let's now make a new dashboard. Let's put it right here. And why I like making dashboards is because it just really gives us flexibility in terms of how we want to move these dashboards around. It's really easy for us to do so. So I like doing that because it just gives you a glimpse about how I would think about, you know, a way to organize my Notion space. But for you guys, it could definitely be however you guys prefer. So I'm also going to just open back up the linked view so we can copy the inbox view. Awesome. So we're going to call this, let's say, getting to inbox 0. And this should be a, let's write this down. This is a process that you should go through at the end of every single day. And so let's paste the view that we just had from our other page, which now is populating a linked view of all the example shower thoughts, right? That come into, that might be a task. Let's also have an example shower thought that might be a project, you know, a bigger project in mind. And I'll give you real actionable examples in a sec. But I just want to first have you guys understand like, hey, this is your inbox and we want to get this to 0, right? These are all the things that you're collecting, or, you know, like I'll call Joe to fix the leaks, you know, or you might have, you know, for example, send that proposal to XXX, right? Or maybe you might even have something that comes up in your mind is like, you know, buy groceries, you know, I really, you know, especially fruits, right? So there's a lot of things that come up during your day, and normally you have nowhere to store it. You have no idea how you should write it down, and at the end of the day, if you don't write it down, you'll forget about it and you won't actually do anything about it. So this is how, you know, first we capture. This is the capturing point, right? Maybe you might want to even write that down. This is capturing. So we have capturing here. Now let's talk about processing, right? So let's talk about processing. So we have, let's have this up for us to kind of see. And actually, because we can, let's copy this and let's put it into here for now. So we can even have it guide us as we continue through this journey, right? So now we have our flow chart right here, which is kind of small right now for you guys to see. So maybe I'll zoom in a bit and we can see exactly what we're working on and when. So let's start talking about what is it actionable. So let's talk about this in the sense that let's have 2 toggles. So we'll make a toggle 1, which is going to be actionable, not actionable, right? So we already instantly define 2 stages where this can go, and I'm going to make the top one green because ideally we want everything to be actionable in our lives, and we want the bottom one red because it's gonna go away real soon. So while we're processing, right? So example is, you know, we see that, you know, call Joe to fix the leaks. That is definitely an actionable item. So we would know that we want to open the actionable toggle to see what's next to do. So maybe we can say, you make it conversational, is it actionable, right? So we can start asking ourselves these questions. And then, you know, is it not actionable? So maybe we can ask it here. And right here, is it not actionable? Let's put a question mark. And Dean, I think, like, you know, I'm saddened actually by the fact that in school we're not taught about this as much as we should. And I'm really glad to hear Alyssa say that, you know, we're learning at least the Eisenhower method in school nowadays, because even when I was going through school, I didn't get taught any of these techniques. It was mostly like, hey, time management, you know, just do things early. Like that was generally the common thought process on how you can get managed. And, you know, the actual answer is do things smartly, right? Not to just do things early, but how do you do things as smart as possible? So let's also have another thing, you know, maybe it's like, you know, something that's non-actionable maybe is like, you know, you're currently feeling, you can even put feelings in here actually too, right? You can currently feeling frustration about, you know, coworker, right? So here's where it's actually a very interesting, an interesting take. I'll explain this one in a sec. This one is definitely a great example that we can use that would help us make a solid decision on something that normally is very, you know, soft, in the sense that it's not a hard, concrete thing for us to easily process. We can also have list views, which list views actually make it a lot easier because then we can just drag and drop and read the whole thing. Anyway, if it's not actionable, then we have two things that we can do. So we can either trash it, and in this case, when we're trashing it, we're actually trashing it in an archive, so it's still there. So let's make a trash database. So let's make a, actually, let's make one database, and let's explain why I want to make one database. I'll have the master database living somewhere else. But for now, let's just put the database here. So let's put a new page. We're going to call this the, let's call it the archive. Let's call it the archive. And we're going to make it a table. And I'm going back to inbox 0. I'm going to add just a quick icon to make this a lot more pretty, so I feel more motivated when I'm doing this. So like that. And I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to make a link view. We're going to create a linked database. Now we have it called archive, right? But I'm going to have two views in here, right? So the first thing is I'm going to make sure I have important formulas, important properties I care about. So not just created by, but also created time. So this is created on. And then we also want a last modified, because we might want to come back in the future and see when are we going to, actually this was create time, perfect. We might want to come back at some point and say, hey, maybe this is time for us to take it out of trash. So we're also going to have a type property here. So for type, we're going to make a select property. It's either going to be a trash, or we're going to say maybe someday. And when we have maybe someday, I also want to put it probably for a review period. So let's also put a review period here. And let's make it a date. And let's say review period, review again in, and we can set a date here that says this is when I'm going to review it again. And this is all going to be very relevant because we're going to create an additional view later that's going to help us surface out this stuff. So now let's keep talking about it. So we're going to remove now all these items. We're going to add a view for this one is already probably going to be called, let's call this one the trash. So we'll put a trash bin here. Or garbage. There's no trash bin emoji. Interesting. Anyway, let's call this trash. So we're going to create this. And we're also going to call the other one, let's call this someday maybe. So what we're going to do here is we're going to filter only on if the type is trash for this one, and the someday maybe, we're going to filter it only if the type is someday maybe. And we're also going to add one more filter that says if the date of creation is today, because we don't want to see too many things in here. It doesn't matter for us. We only want to see what we're throwing out today. And the created on is today. Awesome. We also don't need to see these properties right now, so we're going to hide these. We already have the filter, so we already know it's going to be trashed, and we're going to have the review again in only for the someday maybe, so this one can also be hidden. So immediately, we already have a place where we can throw out the trash, and in here, we can start doing the review again in the date. So let's continue the example, shall we? Let's now go and go ahead and say, okay, so if one of my items was like example char thought that is, I don't have a good example right now on what is not actionable. Do you guys have something in mind? Like, tell me something that you guys struggle with that comes up during your day, and actually it's not really too actionable. It's someday maybe, or it's something that like, it's just nothing that you can do about it right now. Like, let me know, like, what is something that you guys want me to use as an example? I'll use something random for now, but I also want to hear your real examples as well. So for now, let's put in, example item that is not actionable, right? So we'll come in here and we'll say, okay, it's not actionable. Do I want to review it again someday? Maybe. Well, maybe, right? So I'm going to drag it in here, and then I'm going to say review it again, probably at the end of the month, right? So now I have this item, which is going to say, hey, the type is someday maybe. I'm going to review it again in some time. And then these are the statistics on when I last reviewed it, right? Or when I last created it. So I even have a last reviewed here if you want it. Right there. So we already have items that are easily put. And if I have now into my trash bin, right, and I say example item that should be trashed, then we can instantly say that, hey, this then goes into here and it's now immediately trashed forever. And again, forever in the sense that it's out of sight, out of mind, but easily resurfaceable if you ever want to find out what you've trashed recently. And you can even use that for statistics, right? You can even use like, hey, I trashed 5 things this week, or I trashed 10 things this week. Why? Was I, particularly, brainstorming this week and maybe just came up with bad ideas, right? Or was there a specific reason on why this ended up getting trashed? So that's very important, right? So let's go back quickly to here, and I just want to say, so toggle show hide decision matrix. So let's just stick that in there for a second, because I want to then say, like, I'm going to have different views. So we have a view, a dashboard to help you get to inbox 0. That's the first thing we're going to build today. So let's actually make this into a checklist. A dashboard to help you get to inbox 0. A view to surface someday maybe items and easily execute on them. We're also going to build a view, a decision matrix inside Notion. So that's under here actually. So decision matrix inside Motion for non-action items, a decision matrix inside Notion for action items. And here obviously we have the projects, we have the do, defer, delegate. So these are all the things we're going to build. This is something that we're going to get to later on as well, but essentially just helping us come up with the right templates to make, right? So for this one is the trash and the someday maybe. So we have these two done. And now we're going to go back into here and we're going to start talking about the actionable components. So is it actionable? Yes or no, right? So if it's actionable, then let's start talking about the, oh, actually, sorry, let's go back to Alyssa. For example, you want to create a website, but it's not top priority in your life. Is it a complex project or someday maybe? Well, it is actually, okay, so this is where we can start asking good questions here, right? And the whole part about building a good system is really asking good questions. So for example here, let's say that we have, let's use the exact example, like, create a website. For me, if it's not, okay, so how about this? Let's have a guide. We should trash items that, when should we trash items? When we know that there is no way that we will be doing it within the next year. When should we? Someday maybe. When we know that there is a potential to work on this in the coming months. So this actually overlaps a bit with my concepts of our ready to do. So our ready to do is an interesting concept where, because oh, actually, thank you, Dean, for sending me that emoji. I'm going to copy that. Let's put that inside here. That's a trash bin. And someday maybe we can do something like, a horizon, right? So horizon, or we make it a sunrise. Let's go. Sunrise will be a someday maybe. Okay. Because someday maybe for me is actually almost very similar to the ready to start, but the idea is that it's a place where we have, okay, this is where it's interesting. We could potentially put it in success plan, but success plan for me is things that already are defined to be a task. So let's start talking about that really quickly, just so that we can start aligning ourselves, right? So here is where we have tasks, right? Is it a task? Is it a master, right? It could be, is it a area? Oh, how about this? I think actionable already is a task. You're right. Okay. Let's put a few items. Let's put a few items. From Dean's place. So, make a positive impact locally. We're also going to add improve rapport with blank. Build awareness about climate change. Revitalize my local community, right? Start a business. Okay, so the reason why I'm hesitating on actually using this kind of archive as a strong, hard and fast rule is simply because, like, Alyssa, you have a good point. Possibly it could be a task that we are just not working on immediately, because we are always thinking about actionable things, and we shouldn't always trash items if we're not ready for it. So I think actually this, okay, so there'll be a few steps. Okay, so actionable already puts it in the success plan, let's say. Okay, so I think I have a good answer for you. So everything here, I'm gonna put a box behind all this stuff. Everything here is already going to be in the success plan. So everything here, let's put it at the top left. This is all in the success plan. So this is all going to be already, because it's already actionable, right? Actionable things are definite by nature, right? So actionable things are definite by nature. So actionable items are definite by nature. And the difference for me in regards to our non-actionable tasks is that you don't know yet if it's going to live inside your areas, if it's going to live inside any part of your system. Because if you remember, we have this gigantic dashboard, our gigantic mind map that kind of explains, like, there's basically 3 main places your information can live. It can live inside your support, it can live inside your indefinite. So I think this is where it's going to start making a lot of sense, at least in terms of our system. So let's start talking about, if it's not actionable, we're not just trashing things. We're not just someday maybe, but we're also going to ask more questions now. So this is where we start asking more questions. So let's ask some questions here where we say, hey, is this, let's add another diamond. So we say, let's make it, so there's 2 items I want to split it into. It's either going to be supporting my life or an area of my life. So is it research to do? Is it research you're doing? No, what can you do with this? How about we say that? What can you do with this? And then we're going to have a few items here that says it's a research item. Support my success plan or masters or sub areas. And we have another one here where we're going to say is indefinite parts of my life. Then this is starting to make more sense. So here's a relevant example that I can give you personally. So let me just make these lines. Let me stick this here, right here. Okay, perfect. So what I'm trying to say here is, for example, I have a lot of items that I start putting in. I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, read about, you know, Martin Luther King or whatever, right? And I know that this actually is going to it's actually going to build towards one of my items that I'm trying to work towards, right? Or maybe one thing that I'm trying to write about, content piece, I'm trying to write about world peace, or, discrimination, or like, just various things that I think this will help support the areas of my, support, some projects in my life. So I might have a reading material to make, so it's supporting my areas of life. Or I might have something here that's going to start talking about, like, it might support an indefinite part of my life. So maybe I have a shower thought, right? Shower thought, something that came up yesterday in our calls was like, what is actually our authentic self, right? And then we had a conversation in our community that our authentic self might be hidden until we are working on our passion projects. So that's another thing that is not necessarily an actionable item, but it's definitely a nugget of gold that we want to store into one of our, whether it be a master or like something in our sub areas where we can start encapsulating this idea and refining it over time. So I think actually there is going to be one more idea here. So we're going to have our trash items, which is going to sit inside here, and our trash items sit inside here. We're definitely going to have a trash, I think, a trash compactor, so to speak. Or someday maybe I'm thinking that this is going to be actually a view of the success plan. So hear me out here, guys. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this view, and I'm going to bring it over here. And this someday maybe view is going to be I'm going to only show, let's say, filter. I only want to show the tasks that are in the idea stage, so in the backlog stage. So in the backlog stage, and then I'm also going to filter this in the sense that I only want to see the things that I'm putting in just now, so today. So we're going to add one more property in here, and we're going to say date created. So we're going to make it date created on, and that's at the end here. And now let's make this filter and date created is today. So we now have a view that is going to be our success plan, and it's going to be in our someday maybe view. Or let's not call this a someday maybe view, but let's call this the ideas, just the backlog, maybe backlog. Oh, which we have one already. Sorry, let's use the backlog one here, and let's filter this one to have only the created on is today. So this is going to be pretty interesting because now we can delete all the other views just so that we can have some clarity. And we're now going to store it in this way. So now we can just drag them into here, right? When it's ready to be. So let's actually make this into a toggle as well. Perfect. And we have the someday maybe. In the near future. Okay, so this is going to be here actually. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out. So we're doing this live, so that's pretty fun. But basically, like, these are all going to be sub areas. So these are all going to be indefinite areas of our lives. So here's where I'm going to start putting in a background here for this as well. And we start knowing that, hey, this is going to actually start sitting under everything that we're doing on a support level. So this should be our support areas in our lives. So support, which is our knowledge hub, which is our support. And then we're also going to make another box down here that is going to talk about our, right here, we're going to talk about, this is going to be our areas. So this is going to be living within our areas database. So we're trying to easily slot things into our lives. That's just the main point, right? So this is our areas now database. Up here left, where is that? Let's go. I'm going to double click this, areas of competence, indefinite. Okay, so what we're going to do actually here then is we have a someday maybe in terms of the, okay, we know there's a potential to work on this in the future, but we are still unsure if it lives inside actionable or not actionable. So like it's really like your bucket list of things to work through that you're not quite sure if it's fully actionable just yet. Let's think about that a bit more in a sec, just because I'm not certain that this is the right way to go as well for someday maybe. I think there's a better way. So let me see how that can play out. So, but for now, let's have this out here, because what I actually want to do now is bringing the views for, let's say, the residence calendar. So let's now have our make life simple dashboard. Let's take out our residence calendar here. So we might want to bring in things to be in progress. So let's go to inbox 0. Let's put this in here. And let's add in a toggle here that says, is it something I should read? Right? Is it content that I should digest, right? And then this can end up being slotted into our residence calendar. And of course, here again, I will filter in by date created or last edited even is today. Actually, I would much rather have a date created. So let me put a date created. So no, that's created by, we want created on. So created on. So let's put that there. So we're going to filter out on created on. And again, this whole point is just, I don't want to see things that are irrelevant because I don't want this to get super long. And I want to also make sure that, yeah, okay. So we want to make this a list view, just simply because it's very hard for you to drag things into a gallery view if there's nothing in there already. So we make this a list view. We're going to make this really easy for you to throw things in, and then we can filter it immediately to be in progress, or you can say at least ready to start or backlog. It's completely up to you. I would say things that you're putting there is probably going to be backlog. It's not going to be ready to start, and you can just change it later. So I'm going to rename this to be backlog, and we're going to now delete this view because we don't need that. So if it's content you should digest, you should slot it in there. And then if it's, then the next question we would have is, you know, is it, what's the next thing? We should say, is it a shower thought that benefits my life, right? So this is going to be the indefinite parts of your life. So now we can store it into something that's useful. So let's pull out this view. I like this areas of competence view. So we can copy this view. And again, the beauty of using our systems is that all the views are already pre-created for you. So it's really easy for you to just drag things around and use them, right? So if it's a shower thought that benefits my life, then we can essentially find a place to store it and make it more meaningful. So let's now think about this trash item and someday maybe. Let's put in one more toggle that says, is it something that I don't know how to store yet? And this is where we can put it in here. So this is for your place where you don't really know. So you don't trash everything on default, but you put someday maybe just in case you have a potential to work on it in the future. So for Alyssa's example, because she started here, where You wanted to create a website, but it's not your top priority. So maybe where's that here? Okay. So we maybe wanted to create a website and it's not top priority. So definitely it's actionable, but it's not something that I want to store yet. So how about this? Our someday maybe actually should live up here in actionable as well as in not actionable. I think that that's just smart in the sense that create a website is actually an actionable task, so it will move into there. And your someday maybe here is like something that's not actionable, and also you don't know how to restore it. I think that's something that is something more meaningful here. So, is it a task? And I also would add on is it something that aligns with your values? And this is something that is going to be really interesting. We're building a new database soon that's going to be that's going to showcase you all your values. And if it doesn't align with your values, then it should definitely not be something that like you should be continuing on. So that's what I'm just trying to say here. But is it complex? Is the job complex? Is the job simple? And is this something that aligns with your values? And here is where you would also trash items. So I'm also thinking that, like, you know, at this point we can even have this archive be duplicated here, just because, like, for example, like right now it might be something that you want to trash. Right now it might be something that you want to put into someday maybe. But essentially this is where you already start debating on, like, hey, is it somewhere do I put it elsewhere in my life? So that's how I would kind of think about that. We have still a lot of examples, so at the end of this we should be able to easily like sort everything out in these examples. So that's gonna be really fun. Let's stay tuned for that. So here is, if the job is simple, then they should put it inside the ideas. It should be a backlog item. They should be creating a backlog item, and we should be making this into a list view as well. Let's change this backlog into a list view so it's easier to drag things in. I'm going to delete this. So it's a list view, we drag it in, and then we can see, let's filter out by only the date is today. So created on is today. And then, so let's do example, right? If the job is simple, let's say we want to do something simple, call Joe to fix the leaks, right? We want to throw it in here. Awesome. So that's going to be there. And then instantly we want to show what kind of item it is. So this is going to be a, well, I mean, we just store it here for now, but essentially we can start filling in the blanks. Like if it's a task, then we want to, you know, do a new awesome quest and do all those things. But you guys remember, there's more to this than that, right? We still have to decide on if it's going to be something that is going to be done under 2 minutes or something like that. So this is something that we'll discuss and debate later. But for now, let's go into, is the job complex? So we want to make it a project, a task, a key result, or whatever, right? So we're going to have more details. So does it answer a why question? Does it answer what? What? Does it answer how? So this is also really interesting, because then if you start thinking about the why and the what's, right, this might actually even be not actionable also. Like our goals are not always actionable, right? If we look at our examples of what goals means to us, so let's look at our structured planning. Let's look at our weekly check-in and look at our goals. Let's see, our goal, be happy. Kinda actionable. Be more mindful, kinda actionable as well. So these are all like kind of actionable items, and I want to make sure that these are things that you don't accidentally put inside your not actionable, because these are actually very actionable if you go downstream enough, right? So let's now have this. Does it answer a why? We say yes, then we should be putting it into the goal database. So we want to say, let's actually have this view, because I like this view. Let's put it in this view, and instead of making it in progress, let's put it into backlog. So Does it answer a Y? If yes, then we're going to showcase all our goals. But instead of doing it this way, I'm considering putting it into a list view as well. So it's just easier to slot it in. And then I'm going to filter, and I'm going to say that we're going to make it so that it is the created on is today as well. So essentially everything gets slotted in and we get to then process it after we put it in. Does it answer a what? Then we do the same thing here. We just change the view from the filtering of our goals to our filtering of our key results. And actually, I'm thinking out loud too, is that like we might even have a different problem where I'm curious for your guys' thoughts is like, do you guys normally want to compare this with the other things inside your task list that would help you then make a better decision? For example, do you want this to be also do you also want to see all your other projects that you're working on at this time so that you know if you should even like word it in a certain way or if it's a duplicate of something you're already working on? Like, does that make sense to you guys? Like, would you guys want something that actually helps you plan based on what you already have inside your database? That's something interesting for you to think about. And remember, drink water, guys. Hydrate. Yeah, so while you guys are thinking about that, I'm also going to think pretty deeply because I think there's a strong reason for that. So while we're thinking about that, let's put the what, right? So here's where the what is so important. This is why we have to put what. So what does this thing have to achieve? So we have to be easily able to make a decision on whether to do, defer, or delegate. Easily categorize if a item should be in our resonance calendar support, right? Resonance calendar. Indefinite, which is going to be our areas or masters and trackers, or if it's going to be a definite, which is going to be our goals, key results, or just call it the success plan. Goals, key results, projects, and tasks. Okay, so and saying that you just want a bucket to throw things into, that is smart. But then I'm also realizing that when I throw things into buckets, I also appreciate the ability to be able to see what else I have so that I'm able to plan more effectively, right? So that's interesting. I think our answer here then, first of all, it's the bucket solution, and then we'll figure out seeing everything else. Because I do agree with you is that we should at least get started with something, right? So let's start talking about this, getting things done. So complex task, let's say, what does it solve? Let's move this whole thing up more because we have to make this flowchart more expansive now. So let's now move this down, and then we're going to talk about what does it solve, right? What does it solve? And then we're going to make this solve a few things. So it's either going to solve a why, a what, or a how, or a why, what's, or why, or what, or how, which means it's a project. So here we go. We're going to move this up even more. We have more space. We're going to move this up like this. And let's even slim this down so that it's easier to see. So projects, key results, and we have goals. Yeah, I think looking at Dean's question, yeah, I think you want to empty the inbox. You don't want to think about so many things. You just want to put it in, and then later on you can then see if there's duplicates. I think that's smarter. I think that's much smarter. So let's talk about this. Goals. Okay, so what does it solve? If it's a y, then it should be goals. If it's what you want to achieve, it should be a key results. And if it's how yet complex, then it should be a project. So here we go. This is like that. And then we have here our goals. Oh, and not enough space. Let's make this like this. We're gonna make this pesky little thing like this. Perfect. We're gonna make this pesky little thing like this. And then finally, we're going to do it like this. Perfect. So what I'm thinking about here is I'm going to do it in a smarter way. Okay. So I'm going to have only one success plan, but I'm going to make it so that it has everything in it. So let me explain. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to filter it into where type is any. So I want to remove that. So, and I'm also now going to then put in, okay, actually, no. Okay, so what we want here, okay, so this is another what. This is another what. So we want to categorize, and this should be with a simple drag and drop. So we want this all to be done through drag and drop. And I think this is supposed to be, you know, just easily for you to drag and drop and not think about too many steps downstream. It's just for you to say exactly like, hey, is this somewhere, what does it solve? What problem does it solve right now for me, right? So let's go back to inbox 0, and I want everything to be just one drag and drop. So if at any point in this process we're doing more than just a simple drag and drop, we're doing it wrong. Let's agree on that, okay? It has to be a simple drag and drop for us to clear our inbox and then move on with our day. We don't want to process it. We don't want to think too hard about it. We just want to move it into the database where we want to work on how we want to work on it. Great. So then we have the question, is the job complex, right? So let's just hide everything. Is the job simple? And if it's something that aligns with our values, I think for now, let's just take that out. Let's just focus on getting things done. So if the job is complex, then we want to say, hey, if it answers why, what's our how? So let's just put it here. Does it answer a why? Label it as a goal, and then we want to do it this way. Is the job complex? We're going to create a new table. We're going to use this table here, filter. I do want it to be filtering on type, and you guys can understand why in a second. Type is goal. Then we want to say if the item answers y, and I'm going to put a rocket emoji. And then we're going to duplicate this if the item answers what. And then right here is if the item answers how. So let me explain how I would use this. And this is very important because I think this is where I fundamentally think different than what GTD is suggesting. And it works for me, it might work for you. So I'm just giving you an opportunity to learn about how it works for me so that you can possibly, you know, make the right decision on if you might want to appreciate that or not. So let's say the what is going to be a key result here, and then a how would be our project or task project. Okay, let me answer. Let me give you the example that I'm thinking about, right? So okay, so actually let's even make this, because it cuts off. Answers y. Answers y. Answers what. And then we have answers how. Okay, So here's what I'm thinking about, right? For example, like I might want to, something might come across my mind is like, hey, I want to, uh, I want to make, X dollars in investments, right? Something that just comes to my mind. Like, I hear my friend talking about how he just made, X dollars in investments. And I'm like, damn, I want to do that too. That's something that I want as well. And is it actionable? Yeah, it is, right? I can make X dollars in investments. But is it really a complex project? No, it's more like a what? It more explains what I want to accomplish. So therefore, this should definitely slot into what I want to do, right? If I want to start a business, that's actually more of a how, right? Because that's going to explain I want to start a business. So then boom, instantly that starts a business, right? So let's even show this as a type. So let's show the type. There's a project, right? And then let's also even add in the status so we know what status we slotted it under. Status is not complete, so the status is actually empty right now. Okay, if the status is empty, then that's a bad thing. So we do want to put in a status automatically for you. So we want to say status is backlog. Okay, so let's undo that for a second. Let's put status is backlog. So I'm going to filter out the status is backlog. So these are all things that we're just throwing in for us to change later. So is backlog. Let's make this status is backlog. And we're also going to show the two things I did before, which was I want to show the, where is it? The status. And then I also want to show the type. And I'm going to filter this is backlog. And the same thing finally for this one is I'm going to filter it is backlog, and then I'm going to change the property to show me the type, and it's going to show me the status. Awesome. So this is where I want to say, like, so make a positive impact locally. That's probably something like that's a why. Like you want to throw it into your why. It's going to be a goal that you have, and later on you're going to define it more and more. Revitalize my local community, that could also be a goal. So it helps you instantly, easily, like, put things already in the categorization. Is like, is it going to answer a why question, a what question, or a how? And I think this is so important for you to consider, because this is just a really important part of getting things done. At least for me, is like the immediate categorization of like, hey, what the heck should this be and where should it go? So that's really important for me. And so if the job is simple, then, right? So let's talk about this. If the job is simple, then we have a few things to do. So if the job is simple, then what's the next step? Can it be done under 2 minutes? So toggle, can it be done under 2 minutes? And we say, just get it done. Like really, if it's going to be done under 2 minutes, there's no need to even make it into a item at all. Just get it done and then check it off, and then delete the item from your inbox, right? So this is just get it done at the end of the day. Like, why delay? Why wait for the next day, right? Just get it done. So that's super important in my opinion. And then the next thing that is going to be asked is, if it's not going to be, is it going to take more than 30 minutes, right? And then we're going to put it here. Actually, can it be done under 2 minutes? Let's put a yes or no inside here, so that it's just done like that. Actually, it's going to take more than 2 minutes. And then here is where we're going to have the next success plan. So here is where we're going to put our success plan here. Is it going to take more than 2 minutes? Yes, it might be, right? So this is where we start adding really cool filters for yourself. So let's talk about this. This is going to be where we're going to say, do we do, defer, or delegate? So this is really interesting, where we're going to start saying like, hey, yes, it can be done under, no, it cannot be done under 2 minutes, but should we delegate it, or should we defer it, or should we do it now? Like, or should we, or when should we do it? I think these are the important questions for us to ask. So let's now put it under here is if it's important. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts too, because we can do this in two ways. Either we have like actual actionable prompts and the system guiding you, or we can just have like actionable prompts or the system guiding you. It could be either way. Like actionable prompts would be just be like, hey, having words to explain like, hey, if you are doing it, if it's going to be high impact. I think I got it. Okay, here's where we're going to start planning. This has some planning. Okay. This is going to be some planning involved. So it's not going to be immediate drag and drop, because I just think that this part is important for you to do. So first, it's going to take more than 2 minutes. So we're going to want to define the task below. And here's what I want to explain here. So for example, calling Joe to fix the leaks is probably something that you can just get it done immediately. Deleting the item from your inbox, maybe we can even have it like drag and drop into a success plan that automatically helps you complete it. Because we do still want to keep track of it. I'm thinking out loud here. So let's try this. Let's try having a success plan here that is going to be a complete success plan. So let's actually, delete this then. And I'm going to find one of our success plans inside Make Life Simple that is going to have the closing date of today and status is complete for you to automatically filled out. So by dragging into the below. And the really interesting bit about this is that now we can even add in a lot of cool stuff. We can say that the due date is today as well. So we can say the closing date is today, the due date is today, and we can even have another filter that says, and let's say the tags, not target, the tags contains a 5-minute task, right? And then we can have our difficulty level is going to be 1. So for you guys who don't know how our system works, it's basically like we have a lot of properties inside our system that help you automatically make decisions or help you automatically process your items and make it really easy. So let's say that we're talking about something like call Joe to fix the leaks, right? So this can be easily just dragged to here, and then boom, it's complete. And we can see that it's on time. It earned us 5 gold because guess what? This was the due date was today. The closing date was today. The difficulty level was 1, so it took us 1 chunk of 5 minutes. So we get a reward for 5 minutes. I would also add on the type. So let's finish that as well. So I would filter on type. So let's delete this for a second, and let's add one more filter. We're going to add a filter of type. So type is a task. Perfect. So from now on, whenever we have something really fast to do, it's like, call the bank to talk about XXX, right? That's a 5-minute task. I mean, just do it and then delete it by dragging it into here. And then boom, it's on time, it's complete. Like, it's something that they finished. And on top of that, maybe we can just do one more thing is we can even have one more filter that is going to relate it upstream to ad hoc tasks. Let's add one more filter, and we're going to have one more upstream contains ad hoc. So now, perfect. We have a complete, just under 5 minutes. Let's say under 5 minutes, right? A complete item where you can say, hey, instantly, if I know that I'm going to get it done, it's just making a quick call to somebody, right? Then instantly, if I just drag this into this and assume that I have everything hidden as well, because I wouldn't have everything shown when I'm first starting here, right? But I'm saying, hey, done under 5 minutes, just get it done. I do the quick call, and then I delete the item by dragging it into the below. And if I wanted to make notes on it, right? And this is the really cool part, is if I wanted to make notes on it, I make it a new awesome quest. And then I just go in and then I add notes. Like I'm like, oh, okay, you know, this, they said this and I said this, and this was the outcome of the call. So it even helps you keep track of important details about that call that you did, about that 5-minute task. And again, this whole process would not take that long. And it's important for you to, at the end of the day, be easily able to see like, what the heck were you accomplishing that day? What the heck were you trying to get done? And I just really like that process. Awesome. So that's that. And let's now delete this because we don't need it there. So I think the under 5 minutes is solved. And let me know if you guys are ever confused about that at all. But if it's going to take more than 5 minutes, this is the interesting part. So we want to define a few things. Okay, we need to know a few things. And this is where I'm going to now combine aspects of GTD and combine aspects of the Eisenhower method. And just as a recap, for the Eisenhower method, what we're talking about here is if it's urgent and important, not urgent, not important, right? What should we do with it? So what I want to do here is I want to have a table that helps you make that decision, or at least a formula. Let's make it a formula. So we're going to define the task below, especially for impact value. How important is this task to do? Is this task to do in relation to the bigger picture? And also we're gonna say urgency, due date, you know, how urgent is it to get done, right? So in this case, we can easily start making really solid decisions on this, where let's say we drag something in here, right? And I'm going to make a new property. Let's make it a formula. And let's say we call it do, defer, or delegate. Okay. So we're going to put that, at least for now, underneath the due dates. And the reason is because I want to easily see the output here. And let's make the property here into showing also the do, defer, or delegate right there very easily. So let's say, for example, I'm putting in something like, oh, and this should be filtered to task only. So let's see. I only want to see the type is task. And let's now look at something like, you know, something that definitely is going to take more than 5 minutes, right? Build awareness about climate change. I think that's very complex. I don't think that's definitely something that can be done within the confines of like a normal task. But we might have something like send that proposal to x86, right? So let's use that. So we drag this into here and we see that this is a brand new item. And we're going to say, let's make this if it's empty. So let's have if the due date is empty, and this is where I'm going to start teaching you a bit about formulas. So let's say empty due date, the DO date, let's say. Then we're going to say warning empty, right? And then we have that as the warning no due date, or we can say okay. So I'm just showing you that for a second. I'm going to add a warning symbol, warning. Perfect. So what happens now is like whenever I slot in something, it'll say warning no due date, which means that I can't prioritize, right? So what we can do now is we can say, hey, I know for sure it's going to be a task, so we're going to make it a new awesome quest. And I'm going to set the impact level to say, let's say high, right? And I'm going to set the due date to, let's say, you know, within, you know, let's say within today. Actually, this should be on the DUE dates. Okay, so DUE dates. How urgent is it to get done external factors. Let's make external factors. And then after the fact is when we decide the due dates. Then we decide on our action to be taken based on the formula output. Yeah, Adine, I love doing formulas as well because it makes it really flexible for you to change as well. I think that's the most important thing. So let's make this DUE date, no due date. So right now there's still no due dates. So obviously then we're still not able to know how urgent it is to get done, right? But usually when we have a proposal, right, someone is waiting on it on the other line. So we want to say, okay, maybe this is due like on next Wednesday on the 21st, right? And it's high and the due date is near. So what should we do here? And this is where I said I'm going to now integrate the Eisenhower method and also our GTD, getting things done. So can it be done under 2 minutes? If yes, then just do it, right? So that's not a problem. But if I want to say no, then I delegate or defer it. But let's move this now to be a bit lower. So this is like the finality, and these are actually going to be helping us move forward. So no cannot be done. Ooh, let's lock this for now. So if no, then let's decide what should be done from here. What are the actions to take? Awesome. So let's say, let's have this matrix. And again, just referring to this matrix, is it urgent? Is it important? Is it not important? Is it not urgent? So let's have, I think in terms of the flow chart, let's do it this way. Is it important? So let's look at one vein at a time. If is it important? If yes or no, let's have a yes or no option here. So yes or no. And then we'll have more decisions from there. So from here, is it urgent? We'll have 2, is it urgent? Okay. And then we'll have more yes or no's from here. So let's go into this. So we're going to move this now. And by the way, if you guys are curious what app I'm using to make this is on Whimsical. It's a free app. So I just like doing my mind maps on here. It's a lot easier for me to have like process my ideas and, you know, come up with good action plans. So here is yes or no. And here again, I would go like this. And now I'm going to have more flows. So is it important? Yes or no? Is it urgent? Yes or no? And then from here on out, we then have more things to answer. And then I'm going to say here, it goes into this. And then finally, it goes into this. Great. So what is the answers though? The answers is do, decide, delegate, or delete, right? So here's where we also have another deletion parts, where it's very interesting actually, where our trash bin is going to start popping up everywhere. And it'll be really interesting for us to kind of see how it kind of moves along as we continue using our system. But for example, so if it's urgent and if it's, so it's a yes and a yes. So on the bottom part, important and urgent, we're going to do it now. So do it now. So we're going to have one more thing that says do it soon. Let's say do it soon. So whether it be today or tomorrow, right? Depending on when you're reviewing your items. So do it soon. Let's make this yellow. So it's like do it. This is do it now. Okay, do it soon. If it's important but not urgent, right? So what are you gonna do? Important but not urgent. So important, not urgent, you want to schedule it because you want to do all the important things in your life. So let's go ahead and we say schedule it. So defer it, right? So schedule it. And then finally, if it's not important, but it is urgent, then you want to delegate it to someone to do. Okay. And then finally, if it's something that is, not important and not urgent, then we definitely want to trash it. So where's my trash? So trash is here. So trash is here. So awesome. So this is where we go, and this is how it kind of runs through. So now let's talk about how we can make the formula do all this for us. Okay, perfect. So we're going to say, let's now go back to inbox 0. And again, you can see that our mind map here would refresh if we just refresh the screen. So let's refresh the screen quickly so we can see the mind map. And we can see exactly how it all works. And by the way, welcome. Your name is Shushwatman. Welcome to the CoX3 community. And yes, this is all included in the success plan, in the super package. So if this is interesting to you, then definitely I'm really glad, because it means that we can provide more value for you. So great. So we talked about this. So is it important? Is it urgent? Is it urgent? So perfect. So send that proposal to XXX. So first, let's define what urgency is. And this is where we can say, so customization options. So this is where I'm also teaching you how to customize, right? So set the urgency. You can decide what urgent means to you. Is it within the next next day, next 3 days, or next week? You can also decide how important a task is to you within the formula as well. So this is interesting, because then I can even have a sort here, and I'll explain what that sort's going to look like. But I'm going to have multiple things. So let's think about multiple things that would be interesting. So let's also have, other than send that proposal, maybe you might also even have like, create a resume, right? And we might also have, build, build a gadget. I don't know, like small things here and there that maybe is not particularly our project yet, but you want to see how they all play around inside this item. But anyway, so we see here, so we say that impact value is high. We can even say that the due date is close by. So let's make our threshold to be within 3 days, okay? So let's say if the empty is, we're gonna have a warning. Otherwise, we're going to now check on the due date. So we're going to check on the important value first. I think that's first of all. So if it's important, then we want to, so important for me would be high. So as long as it's high, then I'm going to have it slot into here. If it's not high, then I don't really consider it important, and things can start flowing through that way. Let's just make that decision. So for now, let's take out this formula, because that might be confusing if you're just trying to build out the formula for the first time. So let's teach you guys how to build this formula. So we want to see the impact value. We want to read the impact value. So we want to say contains impact prop impact. If it contains the high, right? Then I want to say that it is going to now go into the, so let me just show you how this works, right? On a functional level, in terms of this is going to be the yes, right? And then this is going to be the no situation. So these are the conditions, right? If property contains impact high, this will show yes. If not, it will show no. Just let me show you that I'm for real, right? If it's medium, that's no. If it's semi-high or it's high, then it's a yes, okay? Very simple. But now we're going to replace the yes component because we wanted to do more. Then we want to say if the due date, right? Prop due dates, if date between, so date between, let's say now, and prop due date is and then we want to say days. I think that's how the formula goes, right? Days. Yep. Is less than or equal to 3. Then I want to do, it's going to be yes, or we want to say no. And this is where I'm going to start throwing in some parentheses because it's important. So I'm going to add this over here. We're going to bracket all of this together. We're also going to bracket this into here. Let's see, date between date 1, date 2. So date 1 is now. Date 2 is, yeah, so date between is now. We have bracket days, close bracket. Okay, this needs to have another bracket here. Let's double check what's wrong with this formula. Usually it's just a small thing. So we say yes and we say no, right? So this still works. So this is how I troubleshoot. So now that I know that that works for sure, I'm going to paste it in again and then see what happened. We're going to have a yes and a no here if this is a yes property. And then we can also now test another thing. It's like if 1 is greater or equal to 3, right? We can just check that. So that's a yes, that's a no. We're going to now put this like this. Okay, so now we know that this formula, this part of the formula works, right? 1 is definitely less than or equal to 3. So now we just need to replace this part with the date between. So this is how you kind of build a formula. It's actually really fun. So now we can say, now we can paste this whole date between thing here. And we can now say, we can close this bracket. No. There's something wrong in this formula. Oh, I forgot that bracket. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is gonna say, instead of this, I needed to say it's important and it's urgent, so do it soon. All right, so now we can say, we can see here that it's do it soon. If the date crosses 3 days, so now it's the 22nd, let's see what happens. So it's, what is it outputting? So this is a bit wrong, right? Because now and 22nd is definitely more than 3 days. So what's happening there? So now what we can test actually, if you're curious on that and you want to troubleshoot, is you can make a new property, just say test property, test formula. And this is always very useful for you to start testing formulas when you're trying to build your own. So you can put it right here and you can just paste it in here and you can see exactly what it's showing you. So let's see. So this is showing you -4. And then now you're thinking, oh, okay, then obviously it's below or equal to 3, right? It's more than 3 days. But let's see how it's working. So actually, what if I swapped in the 2? What if I put the now after the prop due dates, right? So let's put now here. Now this is 2 days. This is 3 days, 4 days. And then if it's less than this, it's going to be under 5. So I want it to be under 3, right? But over and above 0. So how do we do that, right? So we want it to be a very specific margin. We want it to be within 3 and 0. So we don't want to just say it's less than equal to 3. We want to say less than equal to 3 and I don't know if this works, but let's just say equals 0. No, it doesn't work, obviously. And this needs to be above 0. So above or equal to 0. So here is where I can put that. So right here is I have 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. We need to put, okay, interesting. So what's wrong with this, right? So right now we're seeing that the number is actually 3, but this is showing no. So why? Why is this showing no? This is again another troubleshooting process of your formula, right? So you're saying that, okay, so we have this thing that says we want to show the date between now and prop. I already know because we swapped these two. Remember, we didn't swap it now. So let's just swap it now. So This is going to be prop due dates. We're going to do a comma now. And again, now you see like the value of like using the system that we've already built, right? Is because I'm already doing all the hard work here to build it. But you can definitely see how it can work. So now we can see do it soon, right? Awesome. So we can say, we can put like maybe a alarm icon, do it soon. So now we are alarmed and ready to do it soon. And then otherwise, if it's past 3 days, right? So it's 4 days to go, then we want to say we want to defer it, right? We want to defer it. So this one is going to say defer. And then maybe we can have like a running emoji or something, or here a poof emoji that is going to explain that this is something that you want to defer. And then here is where you kind of want to start cleaning it up. Okay, awesome. So now we have the do it soon and the defer done. Now we need to talk about delegate and trash. So delegate means that it's not important and it is urgent. So let's talk about that. So if it's not important, so right here, it's not important, right? It's not high. Then we want to have another 2 conditionals here. We want to say, let's say if the urgency, so again, we're going to copy this here. This whole thing here is actually very valuable. And then I'm going to stick it into here. And then now I'm just going to say that if it's urgent, we want to say delegate it. Or defer it, I should schedule it. Schedule it for later. So let's rename this to be less confusing. So let's put a calendar here. Schedule for later. And then for here, delegate it is actually going to be our poof, because I want to where is it? Delegate it, and then we want to do the poof emoji. And then the final thing is going to be here is trash. And we can use the trash bin emoji, which I believe Dean graciously shared with us before. So let's take the trash bin emoji and let's stick it into here. Awesome. So now if the impact value is medium, right, and it's going to be, it's the due date is like way far off, then it's going to be trash. Otherwise, it's going to be delegated. So we can now show a bunch of examples, which is awesome. So let's now bring in a few things, create resume. And guys, keep giving me more items. I think I would love to see more items for you guys. So I think Dean also gave me a few more that I didn't put in just yet. Be a better friend, connect with nature, or create a database, right? Create a database for family records. That's definitely not a huge thing, you know. So that's gonna be sticking it into here. Maybe you might want to, I don't know, nothing too mundane, but maybe like, you know, buy tickets for an upcoming show, right? Again, those are things that you might want to do. It might take a little while. So let's stick it all into here. And the first thing you see that it's trash, right? Because you haven't even decided like what you should do with it, which is absolutely right. So we say here, create resume, we click on new awesome quest, so it fills in some stuff. Let's say this one is going to be high priority for you. But right now, you know, oh, I missed this D, schedule for later. Yeah, so for example, this one is like you don't even have a due date, so you might as well schedule for it to do later, right? But if you do have a due date, let's say it's going to be due by Sunday, so you want to do it soon, you want to do it immediately. So you can see that that's going to be warning you already. This is something that you can delegate because it's medium priority, but let's make it high priority. But let's make it something that it's going to be later on in the week. So you want to schedule it for later. Create a database for family records. Again, I'm going to go down to the new awesome quest. And then I'm just going to fill in, for example, this is low priority. Or let's say it's medium priority is not low, but it's definitely something that, you know, we can do. Like, well, maybe my family members are waiting for it, right? Or I know there's the emergency coming up soon. So we can already see like a very good prioritization here because, well, we can also have a sort here that sorts first by priority. So by priority, let's do that. So priority is the first sort, descending. And then we have another sort that's going to now sort by your DUE date, your due date, which is going to sort by ascending. Which is going to say you want to do it soon, you're going to delegate it, you schedule for later, or you're going to trash it. And if you have to trash it, right, then we now have this linked view that is going to be so convenient for you to then just easily put it in the trash, right? You can easily put it in the trash right here. So buy tickets for upcoming show, trash it. You don't need to do it yet. You know, you might not want to do it ever. So that's a really interesting way for you to kind of plan this all out and have a really interesting way for you to easily see like when you should do it or you should delegate it. So definitely you can decide what urgent means to you. Is it within the next day, next 3 days, or next week? You can also decide how important like a task is to you within a formula as well. So right now we are deciding that high is the priority that we want to deem as important. And then right now we are deciding that 3 days is the urgency. Okay. So what you would do from here on out is then you would start scheduling it. Well, I'm going to schedule the due dates. I'm going to do it tomorrow, the day after. And let's say I do decide to do it, you know, tomorrow, right? Then instantly, if I go to my Make Life Simple dashboard, I can then see in my tomorrow view, look, I've created resume to be done tomorrow, right? It's currently in backlog. I don't have a priority yet. I can say like the priority of when it should be done. Or sorry, actually, before here, I meant impact value. That's my bad. Is the impact value. So here, actually, I have a sort here is actually on impact. That's my bad. Impact, right there. Ascending. All right, this is descending, actually. So sort descending. I was right. And also, I think yeah, perfect. Okay, so if I ever go to my Make Life Simple, right, then I can say that, hey, instantly, this is my item that I need to do tomorrow because I've already scheduled it yesterday to be done today. Or I can just change this to also be scheduling to be done, you know, today or whatever. So it's really, really up to you, and it's really, really easy for you to kind of manipulate your databases, manipulate the things you have to do, and really just get things done. So if I wanted to recap, right, and this is where it's a good chance to, basically right now what we have built is this. We have created 2 streams of to-dos where if I essentially say, and this is, I can bring it forward, and I'm going to bring these forward as well. So bring forward, bring to front, and then this one gets brought to front as well. Okay, so let's go back into our yes and no's because that's where we started off with, and this is where we can kind of make sure that we did the right thing. So in our GTD inbox, we start talking about what is it? Is it actionable, right? So awesome. If it's not actionable, right? So we have items that are not actionable. So we have it down here. So when we're processing, let's say we have something that's not exactly actionable just yet. You know, it's a shower thought. What is actually our authentic self? You know, blah, blah, blah. Then we want to ask ourselves, what can we do with this, right? Is it going to support my success plan on my sub areas? Is it going to be an indefinite part of my life? You know, is it going to be a masters or trackers? And there's probably better ways of explaining this, which I'll probably think about more deeper and start a conversation in the community about this. But definitely like those are 2. Or is this something I don't know how to store yet, right? So then I have one last thing that says, you know, I don't know how to store this yet. So this will then become your someday maybe place. So I wouldn't say it's trash. Your someday maybe goes here. Your trash goes here. So that's very different. So let me talk about that. Your someday maybe goes here. This is where it's going to go. And we're going to put it here. And we're now going to have one final one that goes down here like this. Maybe this can be like this. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is that right now we now have three places where we can put things, right? If it's content that you should digest, so if it's a book you should read, then you open it up and you stick it inside Resonance Calendar, okay? So example, we had a read about Martin Luther King. We're going to stick it right here in Resonance Calendar, and maybe we already have an article ready to then absorb into long-term memory. Super, super simple, super easy, okay? Our summarization techniques and all that really easy, and we can now change this to be like one of his books, right? Then we can say, well, maybe it's a shower thought that benefits my life, right? Maybe I want to store it inside one of my areas. Maybe it would go inside one of my sub areas, right? Well, if I had a shower thought about authentic self, maybe it's about, I want to put it inside my mindset, right? I go into my mindset. I can see, okay, is there anything that I write about that's talking about this? Or maybe I should start a new master, a new, standard operating procedure or best practices regarding something specific in my life. And in this case, living authentically, right? So that could be something that you put inside your shower thoughts. And then finally, if it's something that you don't know how to store yet, right? You want to, example, you're feeling frustration, but you don't really know what to do about it. You don't have the time to process it just now. You just put it right here. It's not something actionable. Review it again, maybe tomorrow. Maybe you have better thoughts tomorrow, okay? And then what we can do, and this is the last bit that we haven't finalized yet, right? Is we can have this view show up somewhere. And for now, I'm just going to put it here because I don't have anywhere better to put it. But for now, we can have a view right here that says, we have a review section, right? So let's open this up. Let's paste it out. I need to refresh this page because it's not loading. But basically, what we can do now is we have another database here for another view for the archive. And then we say this is the review, right? Review. And this is where I can say that I can have a filter, and I can say that the review again is on or after today, right? Or on or before today, rather. So then obviously nothing is going to show, right? Until I have one that I say, hey, I wanted to review it today. So then it shows up here, and then we can say, oh, I thought about this problem like back then, and this is when I created it. So you can even see, oh, I thought about this problem back then, it was created on here, and I wanted to review it again today, right? So you can see it really easily, really well presented that, hey, this is the stuff that you wanted to review, and also then process it, right? So maybe at that time you want to process it again. So you put it up here instead, and you can say, resurfacing things you want to process. So it becomes a resurfacing items that you want to process. So it becomes really easy for you to simply see all the things that you initially thought about and then move things into categories where you can hide it, you can see it later, you can put it out of sight, out of mind until you really do need it. So I think that's a really important bit. And review again could be, I think ascending is the right thing. Okay, so now let's go into the next view. So I'm going to remove the trash items because I don't think trash is relevant here. I'm not going to trash anything yet in this place. At least just my own take of how GTD can be done. So I'm going to remove this trash view, actually. And then that becomes someday maybe. Now let's say it was actionable, right? We have something actionable. Okay. Well, is the job complex, right? Is the job complex? Then does it answer why? Maybe making a positive impact locally is a big goal in your life, right? Maybe you have a what that you want to make $6 in investments, or maybe you just want to answer how, right? You want to start a business. It's going to be a project. You want to start it overnight. It's not going to take you, however many 30-minute chunks of time. It's going to take you a bit longer than that, but you're going to want to start a business, right? And that becomes something that you want to do, and that answers the how, but a very complex how. And then if the job is simple, right, then can it be done under 5 minutes? So just get it done. And then let's say you were just building a small gadget, right? Or, maybe even say replacing batteries in, RC, drone, for example, right? Then we just go in, we drag it. After we get it done, boom, we got it done. And if we wanted to add more details about it, we can go in the awesome quest and we can say, oh, we bought batteries from the store, we brought it back home, blah, 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 blah. And it makes things really easy and you just earn 5 gold because of our projects, our gamification projects. And of course, then, you can also have, if it takes more than 5 minutes, what do? Then you drag it and then define the task, right? So I want to make it easier to drag and drop things. So let's just stick this down here. So let's do it like that. So the extremely important to define the task below, to define the properties for the task below. So for example, now I have these things where I'm going to say, okay, create a website, right? That's definitely something I think I can do in a few chunks of time. I'm going to put it in. Right now it's trash because I haven't decided the impact value and everything else, right? But improve report with blank. Yes, that's something I can work on right now. So I'm going to put that down in there. Maybe I want to, buy groceries. That's definitely something I can do right now, right? So all these things get slotted into here. And then I can say, well, creating a website, maybe that's something that I'm going to have that's a bit more of a higher priority. So it's a semi-high priority. And the due dates, maybe it's going to be on next week, right? So there's some time still. So I can then schedule it for later. It tells me I schedule it for later. So I'm going to say I'm going to do it probably on the 23rd, right? So super easy. But what about the delegate ones, right? Well, delegate ones is like, okay, well, I'm creating a database for family records. It's not exactly important to me, but it's important to someone, probably another family member, right? So I'm going to delegate it to a family member. This is where you can even add like one more property that says who I'm delegating it to. Maybe you delegate it to someone that, that can take on the job. And especially if you have like a workplace Notion workspace, then that becomes really easy for you to even tag in your coworkers, tag in your colleagues, your subordinates, whoever you want that would be more suited to work on this item. So that's pretty much the summarization here. I think that's really cool. And of course, if it's trash, then you can just drag it into trash and get it done that way and just throw it out. But I think this is a really interesting page that can now help you get to inbox zero whenever you have a lot of things that you're working on and you're frustrated on how do you clear it up, how do you get it out of your life, and how do you get things done. So let's just check off some things that we finished today. We made a decision matrix inside Notion for non-action items, which is someday maybe. We also made it for, not just someday maybe, right? But we also made it for our support areas, support database. We also did it for our areas of competence database, and then we have a someday maybe database. We made a decision matrix inside Notion for action items. So we did it for complex items, which is our goals, key results, projects. Okay. And then we made it really easy to formula for do, defer, and delegate. And then we finally made one for trash. So this is trash database. And then we made a view to surface someday maybe items and easily execute on them in the same way. So again, in getting inbox zero, when it surfaces, we then just drag it again to the places where it matters, right? And then that's also done. And then finally, at the end of the day, we finished a dashboard to help you get to inbox zero. So I'm really happy that I did this today, guys. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned something new. I definitely had a good time building this. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to chat with us in the community. We're over at code-x3.com. We chat about cool stuff like this and build interesting implementations together every single week, if not every single day. So please feel free to tune in when you have the chance and join our humble space. But other than that, this will be included in the next iteration of the success plan, of the super package. But it definitely has a lot of touch points with the success plan. So everything that you see here is going to be pushed out to our patrons and to our lovely supporters who help make our community great and keep us going. So thank you so much, guys. This is the end of the stream. I hope you guys learned something new. And if you missed any parts, please feel free to walk back and find a recap. But other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day. Please take care and have a wonderful evening if you're in North America. If you're in Asia like me, have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.